Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckin Around. My name is Tyler.
I'm Steve.
And today we actually have a super awesome guest on with us. We have Luke Wadey for the show. Thank you so much, everyone, actually, for making it for an early time here. We changed it up a little bit to accommodate for Luke being in the UK, but we're super excited to have him on. I know the audience is really excited to get to hear Luke speak and really get to know some of the ins and outs of his design process. But before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And make sure to stick around to the end of the show because we're going to be giving away 2 of Luke's recently released Aero decks to a lucky listener here. So without further ado, Luke Wadey, everybody.
Luke!
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, Luke? How you doing today, man?
Do you know what? I'm so appreciative that you've done this 2 hours earlier.
Honestly, for you, anything, Luke. We would have moved it to a Tuesday.
We honestly have to allow different times for the people that can't stay up late, you know?
Yeah, but there's a difference between late and 3 a.m. late, so.
Yeah, good. True.
that is very true. So, I think the conversation would take a different tone if you were sleep deprived at 3 a.m. and it may be even more exciting, but we're glad you made it either way, especially because it is late already by you. So thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
His hair actually falls the later it gets.
Oh, man.
Don't talk to me about
hair. So Luke, I know a lot of people, it was actually funny, and I mentioned this to you when we met earlier in the week, but when we put up a post last week asking who everyone really wanted to see on the show, 90% of the people that were suggested, other than people suggesting themselves, was for you. So it was really funny because at the time, it was just all right, we know Luke's going to be on, we'll see when he's going to be on. And then, happenstance just worked out and here you are. So it really was exciting. Hopefully not everyone thinks going forward that if they put someone in the box, we're going to have them immediate next week. But this one worked out nicely.
Just to let everybody know, Luke also answered saying he wanted Luke on as well.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. He didn't do that.
There were a lot of other people who said they wanted themselves on the show now.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were some pretty interesting people that nominated themselves. So thanks for sliding me in there. And anyone that asked for me to be on, thanks for that as well. That's pretty cool.
Luke,
yeah.
We always got a spot for you on the show. And I think, one of the reasons we really wanted to have you on is not only are you an awesome designer for cards, but you really are a big part of the community as well. I mean, with the whole pandemic going on, you really stepped up with the COVID-19 deck, turned that around amazingly quick. I mean, I think one of the things Steve and I said to each other was your thought to design to production ready period was 24 hours, which was mind-blowingly quick. What is that process like for you? Was it just an idea? Obviously, with the situation going on, you had a lot of motivation there, but was it just an idea came to you and you ran with it?
It was kind of the case of, obviously I knew that I wanted to do something to help, and kind of the biggest platform I have in terms of doing something was through playing cards. And then as soon as I kind of had the idea in my head of I'm going to do a deck, it was right. Okay, what's it going to look like? And straight away, I knew I wanted to do something that was going to appeal to people, both from kind of the style and stuff that I do, but also people that want to maybe use something for magic, or people who don't like the deck at all, but it's going to give them something to support and show a positive influence in the card community. So, I mean, once I established that, it was kind of a case of what's it going to look like in my head, and straight away I knew it was something that I wanted to find a way to show typographically the kind of virus being diminished, getting from big to small, in the simple terms. And so the kind of taking kind of inspiration from the mono series and the way the lines kind of graduate from thick to thin, it was kind of a natural progression for the kind of the style of the COVID deck to run from that.
Yeah, I mean, such a good idea, and it's so quick. And I mean, you did the same thing when, someone in the community was dealing with some mental health issues, and you actually came out with a deck, a limited amount. I think it was 8, was it?
For the sevens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was 3.
Right. Okay. But it was kind of like the same thing. Like literally right after, we heard about it, all of a sudden you had these like 3 decks come out, and that was for a great cause to help someone out in the community that was going through a difficult time. And it's really cool to see you act so quickly when something like this does happen. I definitely commend you for that, and I appreciate the spot that you have in our community, because it is such a positive space.
I really do appreciate that, and I think it's something that a lot of people want to do, and I'm just kind of lucky enough that people kind of know when I'm doing something and they kind of jump on board. And I think it's great. We need positivity in the community, and whilst ideas and visuals and creatives like art won't have everybody's, they won't be to everyone's taste, I think the sentiment behind them may be always there. And I think as a community, why not do it together? I think it's quite interesting from a design point of view as well, because when you work in industry, you don't really get time to work on stuff. You have to turn things around really quickly. So if you get an idea in your head fast, then that's great, especially if you know it's something that's going to hit the nail on the head. I mean, when I was doing the COVID deck, for example, and Nick Nisko will back me up on this, because unfortunately he had me sending him pictures and be like, is this good? Do you think this is good? Do you think people will like this? And I mean, the tuck box itself was like 15 minutes. The card back was a little bit longer, but it was because it was such a clear vision on what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
right.
It got turned around so fast. But it's not the same. It's not the same for all decks, and I think it also depends on the style of deck you're going for. I mean, I dread to think how long the guys Lorenzo, Lautrec, those kind of people spend even thinking about the idea before they create it. And it's just different styles and different strengths. And that's not to say that everything I make is quick. It's just it's just an ability to have that if you have the idea in mind. I mean, for example, the Grid Series 1, I knew I wanted to do the typographic deck, but it didn't look like that at the start. That wasn't a quick process. That was going on for a while. And the same with the other decks. That a lot of it is trial and error, and it's trying to find and navigate a path through what you're trying to say in the design.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that a lot of people don't understand, I'm surrounded by a lot of graphic designers, not so much CAD designers, but one thing that it's kind of like in the photography world, where when you're a professional photographer, 65% of your success is basically your personality and how you can speak with people and stuff like that,
Sure.
and in video, 65-70% is audio, right? So you have, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I lost you there for a second. Sorry.
We were just entranced by where this is going.
I was like, this is a little bit long for a dramatic pause.
Yeah, no, I was stuck. I couldn't, all of a sudden everything stuck. Anyway, so in video, 65% is audio. And then when you come to graphic design and you come in with typography and fonts and stuff like that, it's just, that makes everything. It's definitely the hardest thing to deal with, I think, when it comes to designing anything. You can have your graphics and everything, and that might take an hour, and where you have your fonts and all that could take 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Trying to find out what works for it, and it definitely takes a lot of time.
I think it's a big part of graphic design, if not all of it, is conveying messages in a way that people can understand. I mean, that's kind of what differentiates graphics to art, because art can be more conceptual, whereas a lot of graphics is more about conveying information.
Right.
And I completely lost my trail of thought as well there.
Hey, I have an excuse. I froze. My computer froze.
So, I mean, I could pretend to freeze, but I don't think it would do us any good.
So as a graphic designer, I guess one of the things that I'm curious about, because I get this a lot from my girlfriend who's also a graphic designer,
Sure.
when you see things that from a design point of view kind of clash with what you know are really design philosophies, how much does that like irk you? So like prime example, the other day I was like throwing up a story on Instagram and I tilted all the font. And she's like, that is horrible. Like, just absolutely, like, you shouldn't be tilting it. It doesn't look right. And I'm like, I don't even care. I'm going to tilt it. Like, so what? And, like, I could see, like, her visibly cringing. So, like, do you have the same kind of reaction when you see things, you know, in the wild, we'll say? Like, are you walking down the street being like, ah, man, like, that's horrible?
It's actually a curse. So there's a thing in typography called widows. You may be aware of it. Essentially, it's one word that's on a sentence underneath on its own, which causes you to read the whole sentence, and then there's one word, so it's not a natural break. And there is nothing worse than standing on a train platform looking at a huge poster going, that's a widow. Yeah, that hurts. Well, like Steve's saying, you know, even choosing fonts, you can take a great design and put a bad font on it, and then it becomes awful. It makes or break it. So yeah, there are lots of things in the world that really get on designers' nerves. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Tyler and I. Like when we're creating. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. When he's 100%, Tyler's the thumbnail guy. Okay, I am not good. I am not good at graphic design, and I am totally aware of that. I'm terrible at it. So, but that's where the other Tyler from Wounded Corner, my other half, is also named Tyler. And he's a graphic designer. So what he's good at, I'm fucking horrible at. Shouldn't we have 10 minutes?
Yeah, you're at 11:45. We're good.
Okay, cool. Okay. So he's really good at stuff that I'm bad at, and vice versa. You know, he's colorblind. So when it comes to like retouching photos or anything, I'm his man. So it's crazy because he'll come up with a design. Like I'll come up with something and I'll send it to, or Tyler comes up with something, he'll send it to me, and I'm like, bro, that font's terrible. Like you got to get rid of it.
Like regular.
Or he'll put in this image. I'll send him an image that's like from a photographer, and he'll like.
I'll change the background. Like I'll mask Steve out and change the background to like starbursts. He's so mad.
He'll send me back this. He'll send me back this thumbnail, and I'll be like, "What was that?" I'll show it to Leslie. I'll show it to Leslie. And I'll be like, "What the fuck is he doing?"
Mind you, a lot of times too, I'm doing this stuff while I'm sleep deprived at like midnight, and I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm sitting there like half confused already, and I'm just like, "Yeah, pink border around this game on." The pink border one actually went live too. I won that argument.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I am, you know, he's a very good sport because literally he'll send me, how about this? And he'll seem excited. I'll be like, no. How about this one? No.
To be honest, guys, I think that the branding for Deckin Around is actually really strong. So whoever was in charge of that, good job.
Thank you.
He is the designer, creator. And together we bring it to fruition. How's that sound?
You know, I come up with very rough ideas. Steve and I have an excellent like process where we refine everything through, and it at the end of it, like I feel like if it wasn't over the fact that like 9 times out of 10 we're doing it via text message or like Instagram, like there'd be like visible like frustration on both of our faces. But like within 30 seconds, we hit that like perfect middle ground where we're like, we like this, and everything's great. Like we're good to go there. Like it's funny, but I have a newfound respect for graphic design because having zero Photoshop skills, having zero graphic design ability, it takes me like 3 days to do what my girlfriend could do in like 15 minutes. And to the point that she seems to be struggling and she's like, just move and let me do it. I'm like, all right, on you, go for it.
I think that's why you guys make a cute couple. I mean, you clearly.
Speaking of cute couples, I was actually just going to ask you this. Speaking of cute couples. So I always thought that you and Nick were the same person. Now, I didn't know this until recently. I saw a picture of you, or actually it was our like pre-show or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so he's a different person. And then I had a live like a conversation with Nick, and I'm like, okay, they're definitely different people. But literally, since I've been in the card community, I'm like, this is such bullshit. I was like, Luke is Luke Wadey Design, and Nick is Elemental. They're the same fucking person. I know it.
We both love Helvetica. That's all that matters. Like,
So we're like Mythbusters here. We're dispelling myths all day.
Yeah,
it's actually an alter ego that nicks it up, and I am just like an AI alibi thing that he has in the UK.
Exactly.
Man.
Well,
Dude,
thing, you know.
when we put your picture up, and like people heard your voice, they're like, "Huh." Like that's what he looks like, and he's from the UK.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many people think I'm from the US, like
Dude.
all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
because they thought you were fake. There's a couple people in the community that I'm very questionable if they exist. Like Pip Chick, she's an AI. I know it. Like she just.
She's also too efficient. She's too efficient, but
yeah.
But again, though, another great member of the community who does a lot for the community. So nothing personal, Pip. We're sure you're real.
No, I tell her all the time. I don't think she's real. I tell her she's an AI.
Oh my god,
that's funny.
Yeah.
So let's it gets brought up a lot when people post these stories about who should do collaborations and blah blah blah, and like. Two names that always come up are obviously you and Nick. They know how good of friends you guys are, and you both have, although very different designs, they're both very similar in the fact that they're both very clean and very unique in their own way.
I love what Nick's doing. Friendship aside, I think, and I've said to him before, that his brand and his idea behind it is so powerful, and it's amazing into and he can make it run for a long time. I mean, there's a lot of elements. So he's done well with that one.
Yeah.
Well, it's
funny he did a good job.
You look at like a lot of like another similar series, we'll say, just because of the sheer volume of it, is like the Zodiac decks. But every time you see a Zodiac deck, they're dropping all 12 at once. I'm like, take a page from the book of Nick Nisco and do one Zodiac deck at a time. You could have had, years out of this thing. Instead, it's like they want to rush out 12 decks. Now, though, there's also like 19 different Zodiac decks. So that's a whole different story.
That's crazy. But yeah, he's nailing it, and I would love to work with Nick on something. I'm sure we could find some way to get something together. And hopefully you guys would be able to determine who did what deck. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. Kier just wrote, Nick's best deck is Slow Hands.
Here, you may be a little biased.
You know what? You're important, Luke, when Kier comes and drops in the show.
I can't see any comment.
So, you know what? I realized that when I set up everything, I kind of messed it up. So it's not going to show up in the comments on the thing, which is a bummer. But we'll bring in the good ones for you. Don't worry. I can't even pull them into the screen today, we learned a good lesson on this one. So we have more former guests from the show in the chat today than we've had for any other show.
That's pretty cool.
No, it's exciting. So it's been a good turnout. But I think, starting with what Steve kind of mentioned there with your collaboration idea, who else would you really want to see or do a collaboration with?
I mean, there's actually so many people that I would love to collab with. I would love to do. But there's so many to name, but I just think someone who's completely different to me would be like the perfect collaboration. Like, without naming any names, it would just be so cool to just see like a really hyper intricate like collector's magician's deck crossed with what the thing I do, whatever you want to call it.
That would be dope.
And just see what happens, because until you do that, you're not going to know what you're going to come up with. And I think there's way too many to name. I mean, way too many.
That's good, though. I mean, there's a lot of possibility out there, obviously. I mean, there really are so many great designers in the community. So hopefully, now that you've gotten some really heavy hitter decks under your belt, we can start to see some collaborations there. I know everyone in the chat would love to see it. So
somebody said collab with Fontaine, and I felt like saying, they already collabed. You have 2 F's on a Fontaine. There's a collab right there.
Oh my god,
that would be an interesting collab. I mean, I'm not sure how it would look, but I don't know. Like, obviously that would be sick. Who wouldn't want to collaborate with Fontaine?
I mean,
Anyway.
I'll be honest. I'd love to see Fontaine collaborate with more people in the community rather than these like little pop up, like not pop up because they're obviously established clothing lines, but like people in the like clothing community or these like little, you know what I mean? I would like to see them collab with people in the community where it's going to help.
Sure.
I mean, they're definitely, I think what you're trying to get at there, Steve, is like they're a hype card brand who collaborates with other hype brands, whether it be clothing, like it's really like hype clothing brands and hype brands in general, which again, though, like kudos to them on finding a niche where they can really run with it and do a phenomenal job. But like,
yeah, for sure.
It would be interesting to see. Yeah, it would be interesting to see more collaborations within the community. So,
I agree. Definitely.
Yeah. So, so no, I think, listen, collaboration is always a great thing. It's one of the things that really drives this community. So whoever you ultimately do collab with, I think everyone would be excited to see that. No question about it.
There's a couple that have already been worked on. Nice. A couple of completed decks. Not sure when they're going to be printed. And there's a bunch of people that I've kind of agreed that it's going to happen. So hopefully exciting times. Hopefully.
Nice.
I think you agreed to working on something with me. It was kind of late, so you probably forgot. But
I don't know. Maybe. I'd work on anything with you. You know that. We'd sort something out.
Yeah, no, dude. Well, if it's meant to be, it'll happen.
Yeah, we can
choose your path, Steve.
So I have to go ahead, Tyler.
Oh no, go ahead, Steve. You.
I mean, I have to bring this up because maybe if I say something, it'll stop. But like, there's comment after comment after comment after comment after comment. Can you guess what it's about?
No.
Nickelback. So, like, literally 100 different Nickelback, like.
Especially now that we talked about collabs. No, it's like 9 people.
No, dude, it's like everybody's commenting on it.
Yeah.
But,
where has this come from? Like, well, I do kind of know where it's come from, but I don't know how it's spread.
Kyle's persuasive.
Yeah. Kyle has some big feet in this community where he like can spring out and touch everybody and just bring them on his side.
Yeah. Kyle's awesome. I just don't thank him for his, association with me and Chad Kroger.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, it's trending in my little bubble with Kyle at the moment. But I just really like their music. I don't necessarily agree with him as a person or just say that now. I just like some of their teenage girl type rock music that they seem to make, and I love it. So
you're the only fan, and that's kind of cool. I think that's very like respectable.
It's got to be one, right?
Yeah, you keep them alive.
Yeah, of course.
Gigs are lonely, but
Can you picture Nickelback doing a gig at like this little pub, and then like Luke in the audience being like,
"Oh my god, that would be too good.
Can I get a VIP pass, guys?"
Don't get my hopes up, seriously. They might be watching this one day.
Who knows? Yeah. They may be. We'll see if we can get you a VIP pass there.
I mean, that's if they do a show. Let's be honest. Are they even performing anymore?
Yeah, they're still going. I've seen them quite a few times.
All right. Question. I have a question. Yeah, that's all done. The Nickelback thing's done. So I have a question here. What made you want to start designing cards? And this question is from Nick at ARW Playing Cards.
Oh, thank you, Nick. Hi, Nick. Brother from another mother.
Yeah.
So basically, what made me start? Okay, I was at a point where I was obviously in my job. I was a graphic designer. And it was kind of all around the same time. I kind of saw Kickstarter and it was like, whoa, this is like people design playing cards. I didn't know this existed. Like the first deck I ever saw on there, I was like, I have to buy this because I will never see this again. This is so rare. It was the Midnight Bowler-Rama cards by Randy Butterfield. And they're really nice. They're discolored now because I left them on the windowsill for too long, which is really dumb. Don't do that. Don't leave cards on the windowsill.
I should probably move my name.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of like I saw I saw like a hole in the market in terms of there was no typographic decks on Kickstarter anyway that I knew about. And I wanted to find a way to combine something I really love doing, design, with something I knew nothing about. And it's these, 52 little posters that you can turn into something else. So that's kind of where it started. Oh, and I kind of like started watching the Penn and Teller Full Arts at the same time. One of my friends like introduced me to that. So I was like, oh, this is like really, it all kind of came together at once.
Nice. So, cool. Yeah, that explains. I actually had a similar question. I think a lot of people were kind of curious because you've mentioned to me in the past, through conversation, that you've never really been into cardistry necessarily, just because of like finger dexterity, and then like getting into Magic. So that's an interesting way to kind of get introduced to cards, is just scrolling through Kickstarter. So
it was kind of like, I mean, before the grid deck, there was like I did like another quick deck, Hawk Playing Cards, where it was. I just saw an idea, I just ran with it. I didn't really know much about cards or anything to do with it. I just thought I just have to do this idea before someone else does it. And I put it up. I didn't know anything about printers. I didn't do my research properly. And like, I'll hold my hand up and say it, because when you're starting out, especially on Kickstarter, and I think a lot of people are finding this, you don't necessarily know where to start or how to do a deck.
Yeah.
Right.
So for someone who knew nothing about cards and nothing about Kickstarter, I was like the prime example of someone who was going to screw up. But it would like, so I don't know, it went up, it was getting funded. There was like some issues with it, some mistakes with it, and I took it down. And actually a really interesting story on this is it got reviewed by icollectplayingcards.com, and actually the owner of that, Jill, she's fantastic. I talked to her now, we're good friends. She basically gave it a review, blasted it, completely blasted the deck, and I was like, I didn't know about it at the time. I took the Kickstarter down, left it. I thought, I'll maybe it's not for me. I'll come back another day. And it was like, however long after, I was just like, I just typed in the name of my playing cards on Google, and it came up with this review. I was like, oh my god, that is so embarrassing. So I reached out to her, and it was nice. She got back to me, and we had like a frank and open chat about everything. And actually, it was by doing that it made me even more determined to like do a deck and do it right and do the research. And I was really lucky to talk to Josh from Byworthy, fantastic guy. Yeah. And in fact, without him and without Jill, I wouldn't be doing it now, because they gave me either the motivation or the knowledge to do it. So yeah, I think finding out how to start doing stuff and doing your research is like a really, really good idea.
Yeah.
People even now still kind of skip some of those steps. I mean, it's interesting to see how many people go to Kickstarter without mentioning who their printer is, or not even necessarily knowing for a fact whether they're going to go with USPCC or Cartamundi or some other printer. They haven't even reached out for initial quotes, or how many people think that they're going to be able to, fulfill all themselves, having never done this before, and not realizing what it's potentially like to send out hundreds of packages and the cost associated with it. It's crazy.
People don't realize that behind the tip of the eye, or underneath the tip of the iceberg, like you've got the design on the top and everything else underneath is just, you don't realize like until you've done it. I mean, I remember the very first time I saw like playing cards, and I thought, oh, I could just like cut these out by hand and ship them to people. That'd be like, that would work, right? People would be buying this. So, but no, there's so much that people don't realize, and I'm sure you guys know your stuff, and people who are kind of starting out with their campaigns and things like that, it is beneficial to them to at least go in and give the backers and give the customers the reassurance that they know what they're doing.
Right.
It's nothing worse. Like, I mean, because obviously I'm a Kickstarter backer as well. That's where I started. And like going on and seeing not knowing where it's going to be printed, or showing me 2 cards in a whole deck. It's like, why would I buy that? Like, you wouldn't buy a car having only seen the steering wheel. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Some people do.
If you got the money to spare, fine. Like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, it always kills me too, and you see it a lot of times too. And I think on some of the more seasoned Kickstarter veterans, you go down to the risk section and it's something along the lines of, this is our 19th campaign. We know what we're doing. We've successfully funded all of these decks. We're not concerned because we've done this. Go check our previous projects. And awesome, like definitely instills confidence. But then you see someone who's never created anything, never backed anything. You go to their risk section and they said, should be fine. And you're like, all right, hold on. Like, there's a ton of risks here just because if I get to that point, there's already been red flags throughout. But to me, like, you're communicating a story there. You want to instill confidence. So being upfront about those risks is crucial. And a lot of people just kind of think that, oh, well, that's a negative aspect, so I'm going to try and play that down, when in fact you should be doing the complete opposite and being as transparent as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to get something made, and you're trying to get people to support what you're creating. So honesty and as much information as you can, it's the only way to do it. And it's no different to kind of people who will run campaigns, but then they won't be responsive with backers. And whether that's during the campaign, it's no different to a store. Like if you bought something from a store and reached out with a question, they never replied to you, you wouldn't buy from that store again. Yeah. But like, I mean, there's plenty of campaigns you see where even if it gets funded, it's like a year down the line and you look in the comments and like no one's receiving decks and no one's receiving replies to their comments. And you're thinking you're not doing that right, because you're not treating people how you want to be treated at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
very true.
This is definitely an engagement-driven community across the board, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, or Kickstarter. Being attentive to the people who support you is crucial across all the platforms. And I think a lot of times, too, you actually see that people are much more attentive on one platform versus the others, but they don't communicate that in a way that someone's like, I can't reach someone on Kickstarter. Let me go find them on Instagram or find them on Facebook. And so they have this negative thought immediately about it. They're like, oh, well, this person's just not communicative, and you lose a backer there, and it's a shame.
Yeah. And I think it partly, and unfortunately, it's kind of the same in even with Instagram and things like that. There's a lot of people that maybe don't have the time or don't take the time and the energy to get back to people. And it's kind of like, well, I maybe don't want to follow your page now because, that's cool. But now as a person, I'm kind of seeing you in a slightly different light.
Yeah.
And that doesn't go for everybody, but that's just the way a lot of people think, I think. So.
Yeah. So we have a couple questions here.
Sure. So
one of them.
Let me just get this out of the way real quick, Steve. Do you have a cat?
Oh God.
No.
Good.
Dog person, sorry.
Good. Thank you, Luke. I respect you even more now. You got your point. You got your 1 point back for the Nickelback thing. So we're good.
Thank you.
All right. So one of the questions is, which one of your decks is your favorite, and which one was your favorite to make? Like, which one did you enjoy the most making?
So I had a tough time picking my favorite, like recently, between the Mono X, the Mono Zero, and the because it like embodies everything that I want to try and do. But the Mono X and the Mono Zero, the way they came out, even though they're both by different printers, and also the thought behind them in terms of the We Are Zero, stuff like that, I felt like there was a whole kind of package there. But for me personally, I think I've come to just fall more in love with the GS3s, just because they're just a bit they're nice. They're nice green as well. They're just a little bit random, and it's kind of what I wanted the grid series to be when I started, but didn't quite know it yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of regret saying they were a 3-part series, because now that I've kind of found the momentum, it's stopped. So, but that's not to say I won't do other.
The cool thing is you could always say, you know what? I originally wanted this to be a 3-part series. I loved it so much. I'm gonna rebrand it, and it's gonna be another 3 parts or something like that. You know.
And there's definitely something to be said too for a series versus a recolor. you can love a deck and you recolor it 12 times and it's the same deck in a different color. But like when you build a series out, there's variation, there's creativity brought to it. It's not just like I went into Photoshop and did a edit fill and now new deck, you know? So I think that's something that also allows you the ability to drive the series idea more successfully than I think some other companies probably could.
I think I totally understand from a business point of view why people may do a recolor.
For sure.
I get it.
Yeah.
And it, you know, of course it's something I've thought about, and it's not something that has been right for the designs or something I wanted to do. I mean, there's a difference between like doing a GS3 and then doing like a GS3 blue for a friend. That's like a one-off deck. Do you know what I mean? That's completely different. I think, yeah, you're completely right in the sense that trying to build a series out, I personally just find it more interesting, and it pushes you as a creator to like, to not get complacent. And in terms of what you were saying, Steve, about like, you know, you could rebrand it and say like this is GS4, but it's actually not GS4. For me personally, part of selling in those other decks was I'm selling you 3 decks. This is a series of 3. If I turn around to you now and go, by the way, here's another one. But for me, typographic decks aren't, it's not going to end at Grid. That was just the kind of the founding father, if you like, of my decks. There'll be something else. It won't be called Grid, but there'll be some. One's already done. But
Speaking of Grid,
yes.
What's your take on the Grid copy of yours? The blatant. I mean, yeah. Have you seen it on Kickstarter?
I think it's a very nice deck, and I wish them all the best with it.
Good answer.
I think that there are too many creators who potentially want to take stuff from other people's decks, not just mine. Anybody out there. And I'm not saying that everyone who creates a deck should be totally original and should create something that's completely new, because there's a chance that you've seen it somewhere before. You don't know that. You can't guarantee that.
100%.
But that particular deck, like there's a couple I've seen in the past, it kind of hits a nerve. It would be different if they'd reached out and just kind of said, you know what, I'm going to steal like 4 of the ideas from the face of your card. Do you mind? But no. So, I think I mean, it's not being bitter. It's just, you know, any creator who spends a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy creating a deck, designing a deck, the idea, getting it produced, getting it fulfilled, and then to just see someone be like, even taking the words from their campaign. And I mean, I've seen this in the past on a Daniel Schneider campaign. He literally had something and someone had copied and pasted the picture and the words onto their campaign. It's like, put some effort in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think what resonates a lot with that too is, you know, I think it's terrible to see either way, but I think you see it in 2 different veins too. People who are really looking to create the deck, and so maybe they had good intentions but went down the wrong route. Yeah. And then you see, like, again, this deck that we were talking about, and I know Steve and I touched on it in the most recent Kickstarter recap, like, this deck is alleging to be a USPCC printed deck that has a funding goal of $1,200. Like, in my mind, this is literally a scam that even if it funds, no one is ever going to see that deck, whether it's, you know, a straight up ripoff of your IP or not. It's not even going to be a reality. And the intention there is nefarious start to finish. To me, that even, you know, that's almost even worse, because people are going to, visual association is such a big thing. So like, that has a negative impact on you almost inadvertently because of those negative feelings that get fostered, versus someone who, again, had good intentions, follows through, but maybe didn't do it in the best way.
Do you know what's funny is that they actually relaunched it with a lower funding goal as well.
It's lower than 1,200?
Oh, that might have been the second relaunch.
Maybe that was, maybe it was the relaunch. But I mean, if you're going to try and make a believable campaign, why would you do that?
And it's also like a random amount to it. It's like $1,253 or something like that. And it's like, Okay.
It's like, okay, who do you owe money for? That's
Yeah, like
$1,250.
so I know what your rent is next month. Like,
I mean,
I
get me wrong.
I guess we shouldn't make fun of that, but
I wish all the best to them as a kind of creator, and I hope that they find their own style and their own path through designing decks, rather than trying to do what somebody else has done.
yeah,
right.
Because you're not going to be successful if you're not the best person you can be.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah.
Dang, that's like an amazing way to end a show. But dude, we have like so much more time, so you're gonna have to come up with something even better than that.
So I actually have a question that I want to kind of take it back even further, like before deck design. And this is a question from the audience: was what actually got you into graphic design? Like, I'm assuming you're formally trained in graphic design, like you went to school for it. But have you always had this interest in design in general, or like did you grow up knowing, oh yeah, one day I'm going to be a designer?
So from like the age of like, I don't know, 8 or something, I was drawing cars, not cards, cars, 4-wheel vehicles.
All right.
And literally every waking hour of the day outside of school, and then as I got older, all through school, everything I did was to do with designing cars. I went to uni to design cars, and then a year into uni, like I was getting great grades, like there was no problem on that front. But at that point, I kind of realized that I had an interest, and potentially it was more beneficial to move into graphics. So at that point, I switched courses. I effectively wasted a year of uni, if you like, went back, and then that's how I kind of followed the kind of path on graphics.
Nice.
And interestingly, actually, touching on the Kickstarter thing again, before I released any cards, I actually just released kind of posters, and I think one of the campaigns I did was like a Deadpool fan poster.
I saw that when I was rolling through your created. Yeah, I was like,
I forget about this stuff. Like, there was one thing where I was gonna like create images with like positive phrases and quotes, and actually email them to people manually as the reward for their campaign. Like,
wow.
Who does that? That's just weird.
I mean, hey, we all got to start somewhere.
It was just trying to get that graphics out somehow. Like, so yeah, that's where graphics went, really.
And I think that says a lot, though, too, about your kind of entrepreneurial spirit there. And so it's funny that throughout all this evolution, you like, whether you knew it or not at the time, like you were destined to find something that you would enjoy designing and could bring to the masses. Like that seems like it was an ultimate goal of yours, which is cool. You know, I think a lot of people are okay just designing to design, whether, 10 people see it or 1 million people see it. It really seems though like you always had this drive to design and share it, which is cool.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, designing for yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think, and especially since I kind of started doing the playing cards, it was kind of something where I wanted to tap into sharing and making connections, and that's kind of what it's all about. It's experiences at the end of the day. It shouldn't just be I bought a product, I put it on a shelf, and I forgot about it. It should be a lasting connection that we make.
Yeah. So Reanimation says, who would you talk designs with most oftenly in the UK region, and what input is more important to you? Technology excluded. Teddy.
So are we do you reckon we're talking about like other designs or actual stuff I'm working on?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really say Reanimation. If you want to like clarify that, it just says, who would you talk designs with most oftenly in the UK region, and what input is most important to you? So I would assume designs with cards. Let's say that because obviously.
So probably, and this is completely random. It was either GS1 or GS2. I cannot remember now. Basically, there was a backer who had on one of my campaigns called Graham Duncan. He's also a graphic designer.
Graham Backer.
Not scratch up. And then we. Old school Family Guy. None of the kids are going to get that.
No, right.
I don't know how it was, but we came about talking on that project, and we met up when we were it was later down the line. I think it was around the GS3 project. And I think I probably in the UK talked to him the most about design because he's a designer and he loves cards and he's kind of got into it as well. It wasn't necessarily something he was massively into, but as we kind of got to know each other, he found more cards and he'll text me like, "Oh, have you seen this thing on Kickstarter? It's so cool." It's like, so I think he's probably the person. And check out his Instagram as well because he's really.
What's his Instagram? Just for people.
It's like __ GSD, I think.
Nice.
But
Cool.
it comes up as if I type in a G, it just comes up for me. So I'm pretty sure that's it.
Nice. There was a couple other ones here as well.
Yes, I had a couple as well that we can kind of touch on. I actually think this was a really good one. And I think this kind of you having a pretty significant social media, activity and presence. What do you recommend as a way to kind of what's the process you go through to really hype up a new deck that you're coming out with pre-launch?
I mean, it's tough to say because as much as I feel like I get like support and kind of feedback from the community, like I'm in the little bubble of underdog I am, I feel like there's creators out there that have like huge hype and they're the real people that can give advice. For me personally, I think I'm learning still how far in advance to kind of show a deck to launch, because if you show it too soon, people are gonna get bored of seeing the same photos. Like you might get 300 likes on the first photo and then you'll probably get like 100 on the one the day before launch because you've just killed people with it before you've launched it.
Yeah.
So I think people need to find a way to, if you're doing your own deck, is to try and strike a balance on how you start advertising. And from the get-go, I would say be transparent in what you want people to know about it. Like tell people the story. And it doesn't mean to say the first picture you says is like, "Oh, here's all 56 cards and this is what everything's going to look like and this is the whole story" in the first post. But you should try and build up people's kind of interest in it gradually, but giving them all the information they need so that they can get to launch day and go, "Do you know what? I really still like this deck. This is
Right.
something for me."
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And Teddy, who is actually Reanimation, I didn't know that that's his YouTube name, but Teddy is Reanimation. He says, can you talk about your struggles in the community after you shared your story about, your start, like the before and after experience?
How do you mean? How the struggles with the start?
You shared your struggles, your story about how you started. I don't know.
Oh, well, he wants me to. Let's go back to him with a question and say, Ted, how do you mean for a start? And
Yeah.
I'll gladly answer that. Are you talking about the initial deck that flopped? Are you? Yeah, let us know and I'll gladly answer.
The struggles
that's
now.
probably what it is. Yeah. We'll wait till we see what he says though.
Can we get
Yeah, the struggles and wait. Teddy.
It's not just me, right?
No, not anymore. Teddy, elaborate on your question. Was it his before and after about the struggle that he told today about the first deck, or what?
So while we're waiting on that, one of the repeating questions, has been A, have you ever sniffed one of your own decks? You can guess where this is coming from. And B, have you ever eaten a deck?
No and no.
Okay. Can you do us a favor, Luke? Can you just take out a deck and smell it for Stu?
Give me 1 sec.
Stu, this is becoming a thing. So we now have two running segment things: Kyle's question and Stu's sniff. I also like the allegory there. You
Kyle.
just shared your start. Now, what are the major struggles as a designer? Oh, okay. I see what he's saying. Teddy, we got you. When he comes back after the sniff, we'll get to the real hard-hitting questions here. Oh man, you know what? Not everyone sniffs a deck of cards. Sometimes it happens.
That's true. Actually, have you sniffed the stickers yet? Oh, you have to.
Which Snickers? Stickers.
Snickers. I don't
clearly
need
I'm
Snickers,
hungry.
but
Yeah.
the any Snickers. Any Snickers. Man, there I go. Any stickers, like the ones the Deckin Around stickers.
They smell like pool floats.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like strong like pool floats.
It totally smells like a pool float.
I was not expecting that. Oh my god.
I love the fact that you got it first try.
Yeah, so we just realized that if you sniff like a stack of Snickers, a stack of stickers, it smells like a pool float. Teddy's question is: now that you've shared your start as a designer, what are some of the major struggles that you deal with now as a designer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So major struggles now.
And people are really excited to see you sniff a deck, by the way.
So I just sniff the deck and just get that out of the way. Like,
go for it. You know, you just get like a good
That's not a sniff-worthy deck.
Which deck was it? It hasn't shown up on YouTube yet, so I don't know which one you sniffed.
The GS1 limited editions.
There you go.
You had to go there, you fucker.
Because you know why? Because it smells like shit.
Yeah, well, you know what? I like the smell of shit, so you should send that to me. All right, just to give context to like everybody in YouTube land that's watching. So I came on the scene in cards after Luke did his, I think, first 3 grid series actually on Kickstarter. So I was able to get obviously the standard grids because they were out in stores, and then I reached out to him and I got a GS3 mono. But the problem is now I'm a big Luke Wadey fan and I love the designs, and now I can't get limited edition 1, 2, or mono X anywhere. So he totally screws with me, and every once in a while he'll send me like a picture of the limited edition 2, and just now how he just pulls out limited edition 1 and sniffs it. Yeah.
Nice.
Whatever. Look at that.
There was like 15 of these.
Yep. Well, I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, what a jerk.
Sorry, dude. And I really appreciate that you've discovered your love for the previous designs you can't have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'll deal with it.
You'll definitely survive, Steve. No worries there.
I'm just going to find out where the dude lives and jump in his house once and steal him while he's sleeping.
There's probably a good chance that he'd notice. So.
Oh, Tim R said that he has one and he'll do it for what? Is that $1 million?
Yeah, 10
Tim's
million.
awesome.
Or no, that's $1 million. Yeah, $1 million. $1 million.
No, Tim's definitely not awesome, because if he was awesome, he'd say, "Dude, I got one for you. You can have it." That would have been awesome.
Tim is like one of the feistiest. I'm going for backer number 1 people on every campaign. He's been from the start. Nice. Really awesome. I appreciate your support, Tim.
That's dope.
Don't sell the deck to Steve.
I've only ever gone for
just so people know, and they'll ruin Tim's first backer goals. The best thing to do to be first backer is just back anything you see. Doesn't matter what it is. Back it. You get whatever backer number you are, and then you can go back in and pick what you actually want, and you'll still be backing.
I feel like that's probably. So I've tried this before, and I still got backer number 3, which is nothing to scoff at. But I tried it with the incantation deck, and that's the last time I'll ever really try it that hard. I'm like, all right, dude, I can be backer 342. It don't matter.
There's a few guys that really like. I don't even know how they do it, because I mean, like Dominic, Stu, Tim. There's a few people that before I've even refreshed my page, there's a backer. I'm like, well, how have you done that? And I don't even know it's live yet.
There's gotta be some app that does it or something. Who knows? Maybe they're just quick. Thing. They're just quick.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I should like say I'm going to launch at like 9 and then launch it at like 10 past and see who's waiting.
No, because then people fucking hate you.
Yeah, I don't want it. Don't hate me. We need to have a test question, don't we?
Tim says he's a stalker. That's why. he's like right over your shoulder. He's right over your shoulder in your bedroom, being like, right when you hit go, he's already on the page.
Who do you think passed me the deck when I went upstairs? Like,
I hate you both. I hate you, Tim, and I hate you, Luke.
That's a lie. First off, Steve hates nobody. Second off, Luke, nobody could hate you. So, or Tim. Tim's awesome.
Yeah, no, I hate very, 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 very little amount of people, if any. I hate Donald Trump. That's one person. We won't get into that.
So
we don't need to do that,
Luke. So I guess yeah, I think we kind of answered this one. Someone did ask what your inspiration for your design style was. I think that kind of just speaks to, you know, any designer kind of likes what they like. Is there any kind of pivotal moment in your life where you're like, yeah, I love typography, or is it really just kind of like evolved over time?
I think it's a natural progression because, and I think actually a good example of this is Myspace. Do you remember Myspace, guys? Again, kids, you won't.
Oh yeah, of course I remember Myspace.
Is that where you found Nickelback for the first time?
No, they weren't my songs. I actually think Myspace, without people realizing it, was the first time people could like take a graphic design approach to their profile, and think, actually, I can make this look like this because I like this. But if you looked at the style of what people chose, and similarly, if you looked at kind of like the graphic design I was into, let's say, I don't know, 4 years ago, compared to what it.
We lost sound there, right?
I'm back.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Hear you now. That was strange for a second. We lost you for a hot minute.
I didn't say anything important, don't worry.
actually, Luke, we haven't heard you this whole time. We've just been shaking and nodding.
You've just been talking to Ted, haven't you?
Exactly.
Oh God! You know, you cut out right at over the past 4 years. So
okay. After over the past 4 years, I think, and before that, and I'm sure after that, the design and the stuff I really get drawn to changes. I mean, there's been times where I like really super intricate kind of illustrations mixed in with typography, and then there's other times where I like a blank page with like a tiny little dot on it because the hyper minimalism is just so beautiful. I think a lot of it depends on the kind of use as well. Not every style is going to work for everything at the end of the day. If you need to tell people information, there is no point putting a dot on the page and then a little bit of line at the bottom. You need to shout the information out. So depending on what you're trying to achieve with it will be whether it essentially looks good or not. But yeah, a top tip, if you put anything black, white, and gray, it's probably going to look really cool. That's just something I've found over the years, that monotone stuff just looks pretty sick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the monotone colors that are pretty big now that I like are your sage gray, like that kind of muted vintage, like your gray, your orange, your tan, like those like muted vintage colors look really, really nice right now.
It's funny because like you do find even as a designer, there's like kind of phases you go through where there's certain colors you're drawn to. Yeah. So I mean, there was like a year in one of my old agencies, and it felt like every job I was doing, I ended up going back to teal and like bright pink or coral pink, and it was like, how can this work for every job? Like, why are there no other colors that I'm enjoying? But, you know,
make a deck this color.
It's nice. It's a nice color.
Oh man, that's every time literally every time I open up this deck, I'm like, that sky blue is so good.
I can't decide whether to do the next deck blue, red, or purple.
Do purple, please. Everybody does fucking blue and red.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of purple decks that have come out in the past. Like, I mean, purple monarchs, purple cherries. Like, there's a lot of purple decks that have come out, but there's so many variations on it, and I don't think any of them has necessarily hit the right purple.
The monarch crushed it. That purple, that violet is perfect for the monarch.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It's perfect for the monarch.
Like,
and the cherry color is perfect for the cherry.
Yeah, no, they definitely work in the way they've done them, but like, I don't know, like no one's just really taken like a standard purple, like a crayon purple, like, which I think you could run so much, like what I would envision being like grape jelly purple, like that Welch's color, like purple. But like, I think like the one thing with the Monarch too is they did such a a royal purple, which makes
Yeah.
perfect sense for the deck because it's the monarchs. So like, yeah, fitting it right with the theme is such a big thing. But I also think purple has so much potential to just be an amazing deck, not just like as a color on an existing theme, but as the theme itself.
It depends on the accent color. I think that's what will pull it all together and make it look really good. Yeah, dude, I'd love to see you do a purple deck. That'd be dope.
I think I think like you make a good point about the accent colors as well, because I mean like the kind of purple the Monarchs went for with the gold accent, that it sets that kind of elegant tone. Whereas if you use those same colors in let's say a grid deck, for example, it just wouldn't work because it wouldn't look Swiss, it wouldn't look typographic, it just wouldn't be the same. So for me, I think I kind of know what type of purple it would be, and I would be leaning towards crayon as opposed to royalty.
Like
if that makes sense
like
to people.
The knock purple is like more of that crayon purple. Yeah. I love that color. I love that color.
I definitely nice. Go on, after you.
No, I was just saying I like that crayon purple. I think it's a solid color. So
I think what's quite fun is when you look through like a Pantone book of neon colors, and it's like, okay, I can get a green that bright. That's cool. The GS3s, for example. I mean, when I was visualizing those for the campaign, and when Nick Mullins was helping me with the vendors and stuff, it was kind of like I knew it was going to be teal, but I didn't quite know how it was going to turn out. And then I saw a Pantone, send it to print, and like you get the proofs back, and the proofs from USPCC, they don't color correct. So when it came back, it was a forest green, and I had to email them. I was like, "What have you done to this? Like, this looks horrible." And they said that they don't run the spot colors, especially neon Pantone. So anyone who's watching who makes decks and then wonders why their proofs are the completely wrong colors, because they don't especially do neon colors. So then when the deck turned up, it was like, okay, this is kind of bright. I'm gonna have to change the pictures that I did, because these are like, it's not the right color. But I love I love how it turned out, and I think color has such a huge influence on the tone of a deck and the tone of any design. Don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, I totally agree. But I would love to see a purple deck for sure. I think, like Tyler was saying, a lot of people, I think, are coming out with, purple right now because it's the hot color. And, I'd love to see another purple deck that is done in a different way, and I definitely think that you are the person to do that for sure.
Well, I'll try. I mean, we had the year of the pink, and I managed to bypass that. So maybe purple will be the one I latch on.
Dude, you know what? Start the trend. Go for like a crazy, like an orange or something.
We don't see many. We don't see many, do we? Like of the orange decks.
It's tough, I think, with orange, because a lot of times you have black suits and orange colors. You naturally think like things like Halloween. Try to get away from that. I mean, when I think of an orange deck, the immediate deck I go to is the Trick or Treat deck by King's Wild Project. So like naturally a Halloween deck, they play to the strength there of people are going to think Halloween, so let's make it Halloween. So trying to get an orange to work in a way that necessarily isn't, doesn't make people think of that's tough.
Yeah. I think of that right away. Like the Ace Fulton orange deck. It's the same idea. I mean, I think the coolest thing about colors is that's the easiest thing to change. So when you're done with the design, you can kind of see, what colors you had intended, and then because I think a design goes with certain colors, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what colors you can't use for a specific design. They won't work at all. So you can rule out all those colors, and I think that's where you can like kind of choose which colors you want to use based on the design that you created.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's kind of fun about like the mono decks. I was like, I'm trying to, obviously the theme is partly just use one color palette, and it's kind of finding like even with the mono the Xero R's, the red like for the tuck and even the red for the card back, you wouldn't necessarily say it was like a traditional red. It's the deeper red of the tuck. I remember talking to Ted about it. It was it was something where it had to be a little bit different. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was like you guys an episode, either last episode or the one before. he was talking about a deck, and it was green and red, and straight away he said Christmas.
Christmas,
You can't use the colors. Like, so
yeah.
clarification.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think it's respectable that people try to break that immediate connection, but it's hard to beat like human psychology. You just
doesn't work.
You can't, like, no matter how hard you try, that's always going to be the first thought. Even if it doesn't last for long and you can pull them away from it, it's always the immediate first thought.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to do a like an orange and black deck, and I think actually coming to mind now, one that's done it quite successfully with the orange as the main color, the Svengali deck. That's orange, right?
Yeah,
that's a really nice combination.
But let's be honest, when you look at it, don't you think Halloween anyway? Because it's kind of like the skeleton hand, and like it's kind of Halloween.
Yeah, I do see what you mean. I take the challenge to do A, a purple deck to keep you happy, and B, an orange and black deck that doesn't feel Halloween.
We're making a lot of big requests here, Luke. So
but you and I both know, Tyler, that as fast as he comes up with decks, he'll be done by the end of the week.
Oh yeah, they'll be in our DMs tomorrow morning when we wake.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of these two decks, guys?
You can have one each.
Yeah. We have a question here. Samurai Atlas said, "What do you think about any of the negative response that you got from the COVID-19 deck?" As far as I know, and you obviously would know more, but I think there was only a few people, like a couple people that I saw negativity come from towards the 19 deck. But what do you got to say about it?
So that deck from the outset was going to get some kind of negative publicity. I totally understand that.
For sure.
And I completely respect and I understand that people have their own opinions and thoughts on the fact that I'm making a deck that's selling towards, the COVID and using the back of COVID, and also the fact that the design itself is so openly about COVID.
Right.
But what people don't, or not people, what a lot of the people that kind of have negative comments don't really look into is they don't really try to look at the story behind the deck. They just look at a picture, they go, this guy's put COVID-19 on a deck and he's trying to make money for himself with this horrible, disgusting design. And if you don't like the design, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to make you like it. No one likes all of my decks. No one ever will. I don't want them to. But at least take the time to do the research and at least read that I've written. I'm not making anything out of this. Like, if any kind of positive influence comes towards me, whether that be by followers or whatever, that's just a byproduct. I'm not doing it for that. And I think at the time, I mean, I was getting called a lot of stuff, and I was getting a lot of negative messages from people that were, saying I was a disgrace and I was profiting off of death was one of my favorite ones.
What?
And it's kind of like, nah, I'm actually taking time to do the only thing I really can in my power to try and get people to help where they can. Like, if I was to run a marathon tomorrow and I said to everyone I know, hey, do you want to sponsor me for £13? They go, probably not. But if you can try and do it via cards, then I don't see why it should be. It's the sentiment that I don't think people should have a problem with. But if you don't like the design, fair enough. I totally get that.
It's so interesting because Tyler and I were actually talking about this, and it might have even been on our Kickstarter campaign when we talked about your deck. But
no one reads.
But it was about nobody reads. But what it comes down to is, let's be honest, nobody fucking donates to anything.
No,
for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part. So people want some type of physical product in their hand if they're going to donate. So a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot because I'd be lying. I've seen a couple people respond to the deck by saying, why doesn't just everybody donate to the cause rather than only 40% of it going to the cause or 50% of that amount?
Yeah.
Sure. And where I'm like, what it comes down to is creating that deck gives people a reason to donate. Unfortunately, humans need reason because we're fucking ridiculous. But that allowed people to feel like it was worth it to donate. because they're getting something that they enjoy. So I think a lot of people don't see that aspect, in that side of it. Whereas, normally you wouldn't donate. And you could probably ask those same people, have you donated to COVID-19 response? And if they say no, be like, now if you were getting a deck for free, would you donate to COVID-19 response? And then see what their answer would be. So I just think that people don't have that thinking that's beyond what they see in front of them, even when they're not even looking at the whole picture that's in front of them,
Sure. And it was interesting because on everything I posted, it said, but I would rather, or please do, actually donate rather than get the deck. I encourage you to do that. This is just for people who want to get something physical from it.
Yeah.
And I think... Now, go on. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, look, finish up. Go ahead. You're good.
Sorry. I think it kind of like, it really did kind of get to me at one point. And I think I remember saying to my girlfriend, I remember saying to Nick, Kyle, a few others, like, why am I bothering? Why am I taking this time to like actually try and create something when so many people are trying to just misconstrue and try to make me out like the villain? And I'm not raising millions of pounds. I'm not changing the world with a set of playing cards. I'm just doing the little I can with the power I have.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like, you don't really know me if you think I'm trying to do that for my own benefit. And just to loop back around onto the design and stuff, like, for anyone who kind of looked at it and just went, he's put COVID-19 on the back of a deck and he's trying to profit by using a disgusting word. Again, I would just encourage those people to just read the reason behind it, because if I didn't put COVID-19 on that deck, you wouldn't know what that deck was about. If I put love in this together, like, okay, you talking about
if Fontaine or anyone came out with that deck, motherfuckers would be all over it. Let's be honest.
Exactly. And it's just, I was just trying to do what I could via design to make it very obvious what we were doing and make it a symbol of something good, and turn that from what obviously is something very bad.
Dude, I agree. And I have a question. How much money was raised to donate to the cause?
I think, and I'll double check this.
I know you obviously probably don't have like total numbers yet, but
around. I think, so let me try and get at least a kind of rough idea for you.
I think one of the interesting points, though, and I know I just jokingly said this to Steve, is like, even in non-donation-based Kickstarters, people just don't read. People look at pictures, and that's 90% of how they decide whether or not they like a deck, which is also why a lot of times a designer will put who the printer is in the campaign, and people still ask in the comments who's printing the deck. So, like, goes to show people don't read. I think there's also another side, though, to what you said, Steve, about people wanting a tangible good. I don't necessarily think everyone falls into that category. I think there's also a second category where people want to donate, but it's, I don't even want to say too hard, but it's harder to donate so they don't go out of their way. And providing the deck the way you did, Luke, provides an easy way for someone to do what they wanted to do anyway, but just kept forgetting or didn't get around to doing. It's a terrible excuse, but one of the biggest things I think you see in all charities is making donation as extremely easy as possible is how charities are successful. Because if you make it more steps, even one more step than it needs to be, people won't do it. Like, ultimately, people are lazy. And that's a shame. Like, again, blanket statement, I'm not saying everyone's lazy, but when it comes to certain things, people just have a natural instinct to find the easier path. So
definitely. And I think a lot of it is kind of also down to, in terms of the physical, like you say, the physical product. I mean, prime example, if you walked into a charity shop and you said, right, I've got £10 to buy a t-shirt, and you walked into that shop and there was no t-shirts you like, how many of them people are going to give them £10 still?
Yeah,
they're not going to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I think I used to have a nonprofit, and I sold T-shirts to for all the profits to go towards whatever campaign we were working on at the time, and I found when we were doing just regular donations, and then we were offering. I came up with a compilation CD when we were offering that, way more people donated because they were getting that like tangible like product in their hand that they could, you know, feel like, I mean, they're still donating, but they're actually feel like they're getting something for their money.
Yeah.
If you said like, if you said if do you want to donate £1 to charity? No. Do you want to buy a CD that's £2 and £1 will go to charity? Oh yeah, I'll take that.
Exactly.
Well, you still got £1 to charity, and they got something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's why you see a lot of time at like grocery stores now, they always ask, like when you're swiping your credit card, like, do you want to donate $1 to something? You're already there. It's super easy. You hit the button. There's your extra dollar, your extra pound, and you're out the door. Again, you need to almost make it like automatic and mindless. And it's a shame because I like to believe that at their core, most people want to be charitable, but like, it's not even hard. Like, I don't want to say it's harder than it should be. It's so not hard, but in their mind, it's harder than it should be.
Yeah.
I
just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to every single person that either backed the deck, shared the deck, spoke about the deck, good or bad, whoever got the name out, got it funded, got, you know, the support that we did. Thank you. Because it's hard times for everyone as it is. So thank you. Yeah,
dude. But don't stop doing what you do. Be you. And I have another question. I'll ask you. Did you come up with the number roughly?
Oh, for the funding.
Yeah.
So the funding was like 14.6 thousand pounds overall. Obviously, that's before fees and production stuff like that. I think because I've been doing some other stuff on the side as well, we're probably looking at around between £8,000 to £10,000 of donation.
That's
so
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
congratulations, man. That's dope.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other question. How we were just talking about, the community, everybody that shared it, everybody that, reached out and did all that. Can you explain the kind of history of We Are Xero and what it stands for, what it means, and before you answer that, are we all right, Ty, with video or what?
Yeah, no, we're good.
I'm on YouTube. It says video playback interrupted, video unavailable.
I'm showing it on YouTube, so let me double check here. I just
I was too. I got an error. I don't know if it's just me or what.
It might be YouTube. Give me 2 seconds and I'll check it out.
Yeah, sorry everybody.
Either way, keep talking. It's recording. We can always upload this after the fact, but let me double check that everything's copacetic here. Oh yeah, it looks like YouTube itself is
error.
Yeah, looks like YouTube might be down.
That's pretty powerful stuff, guys.
Well, you know what though? This is also why we simultaneously stream to Twitch. So
I feel sorry for the people on YouTube who are sitting there like, what?
So I just tried to go to youtube.com and
it's down.
Yeah, like no videos are showing up. YouTube has been crushed. So
yeah. Good thing is we'll still have the full video. So because we are streaming to Twitch as well. So
yeah, and we record on the
Nickelback dropped like a new album or something.
No, dude, you're the one who broke the internet. So many people are coming to watch this. So tell us how did We Are Xero become born? What did it?
Yeah, so I think obviously like the we are, I am kind of thing. Obviously, it's nothing original. It's just something that's easily remembered and therefore can be applied to a concept that you have. And I think that with the mono decks and especially with the Xero, and then with like the arrow decks as well, of trying to get a meaning behind the deck gives it that little bit of something else that people can associate with. And the We Are Xero thing was simply a case of I was reaching out to like people and whether they had like kind of less followers, more followers. I wasn't getting replies or I was getting put on red, or I just didn't necessarily feel like there was like people who may have the time to make effort didn't necessarily. And I think that was kind of what inspired me to make a deck that used a kind of We Are Xero thing,
Right.
which obviously stemmed from Mono X because the X in Xero, it's an easy link with the kind of branding to go down that path. But
Right.
that's also why, as part of the marketing for We Are Xero, I wanted people to do the whole kind of the Xero gesture, just to show that, you know, we're in this as a community, and that, do you ever feel ignored? Do you ever feel like you're not worth their time? Because you're not alone. There's plenty of us, and I'm sure there's people who have hundreds of thousands of followers that will message somebody and they won't get a reply.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not necessarily about scale, but it was trying to do something that kind of brought everyone together, and via the medium again of playing cards. And that's why the tuck. That's why the front of the tuck on the blue and red worked together, because it was all about completing it. And if you get 2 and 2 together, now you can make the whole Xero together. And it just,
Right.
it was trying to just encourage positive community.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, bravo on that, man. I think there are these pockets of time that I see, like, it's like waves in our community. You know, it's like there's times where I see a lot of positivity going on, and then all of a sudden there's just this like cloud that comes in where like a bunch of negative things fly over, and I think that's the most important time, where we have to stick together and not allow that negative energy to come in. And
Definitely.
yeah,
like you guys,
interesting.
You guys are two guys that kind of promote the positive community as well, and I think that's fantastic. And I think it is really great to know guys like you and the rest of the guys out there who are kind of pushing that, and they're not there to make negative comments for the sake of trying to rile people up.
Yeah.
It's constructive. It's not always necessarily what you want to hear, but it's still going to benefit you in one way or another. We don't want people to like kiss asses. We just want realistic and honest feedback.
100%. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that it's so easy to be negative. I mean, we really do live in such a negative world, which is a shame, but it's so easy, especially when you go through someone's Instagram and you see a picture you don't like, and someone feels the need to be like, this is garbage or whatever. Like, what's the point? Like, like you said, constructive criticism is phenomenally helpful. If you tell someone a reason why you don't think this works, they can take it, they can learn from it. You're actually benefiting them. Hopefully your tone comes over correctly. Sometimes that's tough with text, but like, if you see something you don't like, just don't even bother saying anything if you're going to say something negative, or say something positive still. Like, find the positive in it. That's one of the things that I truly believe, is that there really is positive in everything. Like, no matter what it is, it's your mind state, your mindset that really determines whether or not you see something as a positive or a negative experience, or positive or a negative object, whatever. So trying to force yourself to find that positive, A, naturally will make you a more positive person, but B, will also make the people around you more positive, because you're exuding that and people pick up on it. Like, I mean, think about, like, even from a work point of view, you roll into a meeting, you can immediately tell the person who's having a shitty day. Like, they don't need to say anything. You feel it. You see it on their face. Like, it just streams off of them. Empathetic people then turn around and say, oh, what's wrong? But other people who maybe aren't empathetic or don't care will make snide remarks there. And it's the same thing in person as it is on the internet. It's just, I think a lot of times on the internet, it's easier to be less considerate of other people because it's not a face-to-face interaction.
Right. That's it. You can hide behind that barrier and make the comment and not really worry about what it's doing to the person on the other end. I mean, you don't know if they've got insecurities. You don't know what they're worried about. I mean, obviously, if you put yourself on the internet, you're putting yourself in a position to be commented on both positive and negatively. However, like you say, try and find the positive. If you look at a deck and think it's ugly, you don't have to tell them it's an ugly deck. You could say, hey, congrats on making your own deck.
Yeah,
there's something in it. So yeah,
or
completely right.
Or just don't, like Tom said, or just don't comment on it unless they reach out to you and they're like, "What do you think of my deck?" Then you're like, "Fuck, what do I say?" You'd be like, "Dude, you know what I say? If it's not for me, I'll be like, you know what? It's not my style, but good job," or something like that.
There's definitely ways of doing it. Like you say, there's no point posting on someone, commenting on someone's post and saying, hey, this is shit, because there's no benefit to that. If you wanted to go on it and say, hey, you used green and red and it looks like a Christmas deck, I'd rather you didn't, then that's a beneficial negative comment because it's constructive. And I just think some people just keep the ammo to yourself. There's no need for it. But I mean, we all make negative comments from time to time. No one's perfect. Like,
no, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's a difference between making a negative comment and trying to like belittle somebody. There's a big difference, you know. I think, I mean, I think that's where the difference comes in. You know,
absolutely, and it's all about self-awareness too. You know, when you do have those moments where you make a negative comment, sit back and be retrospective and think about why you did it. And I mean, if thankfully for the internet, maybe too many people didn't see it, you go delete it or you edit it real quick. But like also like think about what's going on with you that caused you to do that. It's a learning experience for two people there. You get to grow, and then hopefully when you make it into a more positively constructive comment, the other person gets to grow as well. So
exactly. And like we're saying, we all do it. I mean, I'll hold my hands up and say I've made negative comments in the past. I could see in anyone worldwide deck and go, oh, that took a lot of effort. You've basically done it again in blue. Great job.
Right.
But that could have been, I was maybe having a bad day, or maybe it's the fact that it's the frustration that you have so much power to like create something with this huge community you've established through cardistry, but you're not necessarily using it to benefit everybody. And I think as long as you can kind of walk away from that and go, you know, I was negative, but I can change how I approach, or I can apologize, or I can, you know, rectify in some way, then that's it. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to live in a world where all you hear is positives all the time, because people just get wrapped in bubble wrap and it's no good for you. But like you say, there's just a way of doing it and a way of dealing with it afterwards that you can take it on the chest.
Yeah, just about it's all about tact, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So we're getting. I got actually a couple of messages. One on a text, and then this one just came through saying that the YouTube stream is still working, just no comments are coming through. So
okay, awesome. No, I'm glad to see that. Thank you everyone for clarifying that for us, because on our end, it looks like YouTube just died. So I'm glad to hear it's still going. I feel like we got real philosophical there, thinking no one could hear us. But I'm glad it went that route.
For sure.
I actually had a really good question. I won't say a really good question. A question that I'm curious about that came through. Whoever asked this, I'm not knocking your question, but I think it's a relatively simple question. But I think it's actually an interesting one considering your style. But what's your favorite part about like what we would classify collector decks? Like, I feel like it's such a contrast to you. What really, like, when you're going through someone like Stockholm 17 or, you know, one of Lautrec's decks, like, what to you is the most fascinating aspect?
It's got to be the tuck boxes for me. It sounds really simple, like a really, really straightforward answer. But if I can see an intricate foiling and beautiful illustration on a paper stock, and this sounds really lame, but like, you really do get to appreciate nice paper when you're not necessarily just when you're into playing cards, but when you're as a designer and you have to look through stocks for a product, for a brochure, for a leaflet, for whatever, you start to pick up on paper and the kind of tactile feel of it. So if you can look at a deck and think that's going to feel great and look great, that's probably what I would say.
That's pretty cool. And let me add to that, which was a great question. Do you think your purple deck will have like intricate foil and all that stuff on the tuck box? Will we ever see a different style, work on a tuck box from you?
So this is quite an interesting one, because over the past kind of couple of years, I thought about doing a decks, and I might have done a quick design and showed it to someone. They'd be like, "Oh, but that's not your style. That's not what you're kind of known for." And I think that's actually wrong, because as a design, I'm coming at it from a designer point of view. I'm not coming at it as a magician or a cardist. I will never be either of those things. Despite my friends trying to encourage me to learn how to do it, it's not going to happen. So I think, wow, that's completely gone. Completely gone.
What?
He just lost his train of thought.
I was picturing myself at UK CardCon and trying to learn how to do the Charlie A cut, and it was just so awful. It was so bad.
Now, dude, I was like, is everything all right? Is he having like?
Oh, what was the question again?
It was basically, are you going to create a deck that has?
Yes.
Yeah, you said you had an idea, you had a sketch, and someone said it wasn't your style.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all of that. Sorry about that. It's
all good.
Yeah, coming from it from a design point of view, I think it's important to not necessarily only have one style. So whilst what you guys and people may know me for right now is the kind of Luke Wadey style, and you can see it a mile off, that won't be everything I do forever, because that's not appropriate to every deck I want to do. I've got ideas in my head that I'm going to do for Magic decks that will have foiling, that will have that kind of intricate nature to them. And I've got ones that actually are going to try and combine that with my style. So hopefully that's something that's not really been seen at all. And it may look crap and you may never see it, but I'll show you guys anyway. It's just
But, dude, you know who would be really cool? I'd love to see you work with is Keller
O'Neill.
Keller O'Neill. I think he just did the Chalmers deck with Lautrec. I think he'd be really cool for you to work with, because you guys are. I think you just have the same vibe, and I think he's all about the tuck box. He's all about like the material and the feel of the paper, and like you guys are just I think would work very well together. And he's such a rad dude. Huh?
I'll have to drop him a message after, and
dude, drop him a message and be like, "Yo,
he's a really chill dude."
Oh my god, dude, he's one of the coolest dudes in the community by far, and he's been around a while, and he knows that But I mean, I think you guys would really, really do a cool deck together for sure.
So speaking about your style, and I think that's one of the things that we kind of didn't really officially touch on for the show, like, or in general, do you consider your style a cardistry style deck, or do you really is it something else to you?
To me, it's something else.
Okay.
I think for me, it's like a.
Steve is struggling hard here.
Hard. I just learned Sybil, and I'm learning it.
I mean, it looked good to me, so.
Yeah, that's better than I could ever do.
And
I did it with a grid 3, so it's clearly cardistry deck.
There you go.
Where it must be. I think something else. I don't. With the exception of the mono decks, they were kind of something I was like, right, I want to do a cardistry deck, and the semi borders and stuff like that. Things like that really tie into the cardistry side. But I think my style, as if I could just embrace myself as a deck, it would literally be something that doesn't have a category. Like the Arrow deck, you could argue it's a cardistry deck, but I'd argue it's like a designy deck which could be used for cardistry. Like it sounds really lame, but actually I think part of the reason that maybe some of my decks don't get the kind of like huge worldwide hype kind of massive thing is because people aren't necessarily sure what they're going to use them for. They're going to look at a grid and go, okay, I probably won't use that for Magic, and I probably won't use that for cardistry. But then when they do, as you're seeing there, like the amount of people that have kind of grabbed the GS3 and gone, do you know what, this looks really kind of cool in a fan or during the flourishes. So yeah, I think my own style is somewhere between the card is, I don't know. It's Luke Wadey. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, it's just like anything else, in any community. It's like people have to put it in a category, because if they don't, what are they going to do with it? What are they going to call it? Whatever. So I think people. I mean, even we do it when we're doing our Kickstarter breakdowns. It's like that is definitely a cardistry deck. Look at that fan. You know what I mean? But what it comes down to is it's like it's gonna fall into a category, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think anytime you have a one-way design, it's gonna fall in cardistry category, whether it's whatever, a blank back or anything. If as long as it has obviously if it has a blank back, it's not gonna have one. But the idea. So I think if it has a one-way design, it kind of rules out Magic unless it's pretty like subtle one-way design.
So yeah.
But I mean, I definitely think, like you said, though, it's definitely when you look at something, you're like, that's a Luke Wadey deck. That's cool. Not everybody can, can say that about their designs.
I do, and I really appreciate that. Like because there's certain decks that have come out and people go, oh hey, did you do that deck? I'm like, no, but thanks for recognizing that the style I do is like similar, or it might be something that I've done before a deck that's come out, and people are going, oh hey, he's using your style. Like, I don't own this style, but thank you for picking up on the fact that I do this style. And it's fun because, like I say, coming at it from like just a purely design point of view, it's interesting to kind of watch how people use cards and try to find ways in which the designs could then be altered to cardistry, for example, because I haven't done a Magic deck really, and it's quite interesting, especially with stuff I'm working on right now. I'll look at it and I'll go, okay, that's really nice from a design point of view. However, I want to bring some more cardistry elements into that, for example.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure the next deck you'll see that I've been working on, you'll kind of get that straight away.
After show little peep or what?
No.
No. So Daniel said that your decks look great on display, and he thinks they're more a collector's deck than anything.
Oh, cheers, Dan. He's got a great display. They're in the carrot cases. They look pretty sick. So yeah, cheers, Dan.
I was gonna leave them sealed originally, but then I opened one and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'm opening them all. So now they're all opened.
I know the struggle, like, because obviously, like, I collect decks, not as much as many people do, but I get a deck and I think, oh, I probably should have got 2 of these because I'm looking at this tuck and it's nice and I don't want to break it. But I know there's some cool stuff inside that I want to see, like.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that's one of the awesome things that like Lotrek brings to the table with like his crypt decks, where it's basically like this just looks like a plain black box on the outside, but once you get inside, that's where all the awesomeness is, to really encourage people to open decks. And I mean, Steve can tell you, when Steve and I first started like really talking, like I wouldn't open a deck unless I had 2 of them. I still struggle with it sometimes, but like now, like I picked up I got like a brick from a giveaway not too long ago, and one of the decks in there was like a spirit deck. I probably wouldn't have picked it up myself, but I got it and it's dinged, and I'm like, this is gonna go on the open pile. Like, why not? Like, what's the point otherwise? So
first of all, this kid has the best like willpower when it comes to, dude, how many decks do you have like on hold to open?
Like 42.
Bro, like don't like so I literally I mean, not 100%, but I kind of came up with this idea of let's open a deck every Friday. That's just to force him to open up a deck.
Yeah.
So basically now we do this segment where like on Instagram Live every Friday that we open a deck, and for me to get him to open 2 decks on that show is like,
no, it won't happen. It won't happen. I have to say the first big push was actually when Matt was on, and I was definitely peer pressured into opening the Ninja Turtles deck. So after that, I was like, all right. And now that like I have like the post I do every day, I actually open whatever deck I take the picture of for that day. Like I open that deck that day. So now I open at least like 9 decks a week. But like, so again, a lot of these decks don't actually get played with because I'm just taking the pictures of them. But like before that, dude, I had like 4 decks open ever. Like other than like standard bike decks to play with. Like, yeah, it just, I don't know. I love the collecting aspect of it. But finally I was like, I need to see what's inside these things because they're just awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite deck I haven't opened.
What is it?
So have you heard of the illustrator Malika Favre? I don't know how you pronounce it.
No.
So check out her stuff. You may have seen it, but you wouldn't have known. It's vector-based design illustration. It's like really just bold. There's a lot of other designers that do it too, but she kind of like is really known for it.
What's her name?
Malika Favre. I'll link it. I'll send you a link afterwards.
Yeah, because we'll put it down in the description below.
Yeah,
she's like big time.
Yeah, she's like done collaborations with like some massive companies, French, I think. And she did a deck. I couldn't tell you who printed it. I still can't even remember the description of it saying who was printed. But she did a collaboration deck called Lucky Hands.
Yeah.
And basically, I had to get one. It was like an absolute kind of naughty buy, but it's beautiful, and I've only looked at it from the outside because the pictures, I know it's on the inside, but I don't want to break any seals. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But it's still my favorite deck.
How much was the deck?
£60.
Oh, damn.
not
All right.
bad.
I mean, like 90
I
US
know
almost,
people
somewhere
spend
around there.
more, but
Yeah. But like, yeah, if you're not big into collecting and dropping ridiculous amounts on a deck, that's a lot of money. I mean, I struggle with decks that cost that much still. Like, I struggle sometimes with decks that cost $15.
yeah.
Here's a little sneak peek for someone who wants to get a glimpse of it.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
The tuck box is pretty dope.
We'll definitely put a link to the
we'll put a link
site
down
in
below.
in the comments.
Looks like a Art of Play type box or a Theory 11 type box. Yeah,
has a very like Art Deco feel to it. I like that.
Yeah, definitely something I think I could see. I could see Art of Play having.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sold out though.
Yeah, man, that's why I had to get one. I regret not getting two. Well, I couldn't afford to. So. But yeah, really cool. It was because it was her. It wasn't because I wouldn't have seen it otherwise. So.
Right. No. I think that's cool, especially when these like artists come out with decks. Like actually, Tyler and I were doing the Kickstarter campaign. I mean, the Kickstarter breakdown, and this one dude is an artist, and he has clearly a humongous following, but nobody knows him in the card community.
The Von Art deck,
Yeah, and I looked at the deck, and I'm like, no, But dude, he 40 grand or something?
Yeah, like 40 grand with a goal of like $1,100. Like, dude, he was definitely going like NPC for the deck. Like, no big bells and whistles.
Like, he wasn't even going NPC. Like, he was way below NPC. He was like Zazzle print or something. But like, dude, literally, you can tell he has a huge following because he had like 700 back in. Like this.
So here, so I just pulled it up. His name's Tim Von Ruden.
Right.
His original goal was $9,000. He raised $34,000 so far. He has 1,000 backers.
Wow.
And there's still 14 days to go on this thing. Like, we'll also link to this in the bottom because we just shouted him out hard. And it's honestly a dope looking deck. Like, his art is it looks like pencil sketches from my point of view. Like, I like that. It's very it reminds me of like classical French styling in like pencil sketches. It's interesting. Definitely not everyone's like taste, I don't think, but like I'm sure the deck is not going to be printed on anything amazing. I don't even know if he talks about the printer, but like it's also, dude, it's like $20 a deck.
No, dude, it's crazy. So you're clearly paying because he's an artist that obviously is well known in his area, whatever it is. But it's no color on the deck. Like no
color.
Nothing.
Wow.
Which super dope for him. But same example is like these pretty cool like artists come out with a deck, and I think you actually have one, that Shock one, right? Tyler,
what's up?
Didn't someone bought like a Shock? It's like an artist.
Guy Harvey, yeah. I have a whole bunch of Guy Harvey's decks. Mind you, though, Guy Harvey's decks were like $6. Like,
no, but it's like the same. It's the same. He's probably sold fucking 10,000, like 10,000.
The deck quality. So he actually has a couple that are USPCC printed. They were like $14. I really like his artwork. It's all like fish and tropical oriented. He's based out of Miami and Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, and it's all like beautiful, beautiful work. He's actually a doctor of marine biology. A significant amount of his money that he makes off of the paintings goes to marine biology research, like oceanography, his own oceanography charity. And like, dude, like he's legit. Like his paintings, his original oil-based paintings are like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So like, yeah, you go and you get a print on like metal at one of his shops, it's still going to cost you a couple $1,000. But it's amazing, beautiful stuff. Very vibrant, very like, again, marine biology oriented, very like, beautiful marlin paintings and stuff. If you saw it, you'd probably be like, oh, like I've seen this before, but I never knew who did it. But the decks are straight crap.
Well, this brings up an interesting point, and let me flip the question back onto you guys. So how do you feel about decks and I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say anyway, but how do you feel about decks that use printers that people have never heard of?
So
there's been a couple of
you go first,
Kickstarters.
Tyler.
Go on.
Go ahead, Tyler. You go first. I'm
Okay,
gonna grab a drink real quick. So go ahead.
So I think the one that popped up recently that's probably coming to your mind is the Biohazard and the Uranium-52 deck. So I backed it. Honestly, first off, I was impressed with the amount of effort, knowing how hard it is to get inks to look like that without using like a Pantone. I was impressed by the coloring alone. Like the deck really necessarily wasn't my style. I'm not like a post-apocalyptic kind of guy. But I backed it because I thought it was interesting. I really want to see what the printer can do. I fully believe that having more printers in the community who can actually do quality work, irrespective of cost, is important. Because even if they're more expensive initially, if the quality's there, people will use them. The cost comes down the more volume they get. Not to say that, like, if someone pulls up some, and we had Lee Asher on last week, he was talking about how there's a lot of unknown printers in India and China who eventually will get their standards up. I'm not saying go out and use the cheapest printer you can find from China who has shit quality decks, but if you can find a printer that no one's ever heard of who makes a good deck, doesn't even need to be a great deck, but a good deck, I'm 100% about it.
Definitely. And I think that deck is case in point. If it's fantastic design, it's got beautiful custom paper for the tug. The ink looks fantastic. And I'm really excited to see, I think is it Licorice Press? I'm pretty sure it's Licorice Press is doing it. Having not heard about them before, I'm really interested to see how they and some other new printers are going to come out in the community, and hopefully we can expand and see some fun stuff.
So that was perfect. I've been on an ASMR kick because I think it cracks me up. So here we go, everybody. All right. Anyway, so my
oh my God,
my take on that is I think ultimately people don't care, right? I think handling wise, I think USPCC Katamundi definitely handles the best. MPC, their new stuff is phenomenal. I think it's great. I think they're definitely coming up, and their new stuff is just awesome. I don't know how long it will last. I haven't really tried to put too much into it, but I think Legends came out with a couple of decks. Their Elephant deck, their CPU deck, or their circuit deck, I mean.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think they feel great. I love them. I think there's definitely decks coming from companies like NPCC that are clearly luxury decks. They're just to collect, and they're not really for handling.
Sure.
So it doesn't really matter. So I think depending on what your goal is for the deck, I think, as a magician, as a cardist, if you're doing a lot of packet cuts, NPCC might not be a big deal. But like if you're trying to do ATM or things like that involve sliding of the cards and stuff like that, then you might have a problem. Same thing with, Magic. I think if the decks don't feel good and glide right, then you're going to have a problem when doing certain slides and stuff like that. So I think overall, as a collector, I don't think it matters. I think people will buy it because they're not going to open it anyway, so it doesn't even matter, And then you have people like Matt who do open all his decks, and he doesn't care as long as the artwork is there, the tuck box looks great. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things to touch on there too is really there's so much possibility for some of these printers. It's just someone's got to give them a chance. I think that's what it really comes down to, which is why, again, like Steve, I know you and I discussed it, and we know you don't like skulls, and the Uranium-52 deck, definitely not your style. To be very honest, like I said, not necessarily my style, but I'm excited to see what a new printer can do. I think, and again, like I said, just impressed with the quality, like the ink, the coloring of that yellow deck was just, it's like safety yellow. It was beautiful. So I think that if that carries on, and then all of a sudden you have a printer who can do that color reasonably, that's a hole in one for them. They will definitely get business for people who want to use that color because it's cool. And I can think of a million deck themes that would be great with that bright yellow to it, But like, I think the other aspect that comes into it too is a lot of times you find people who may use NPCC or LPCC or some of these other decks because they want to do an intricate deck that has a lot of foil and a lot of embossing and all that. But for them to do it at, say, again, not to shout anyone out, or in no way is this a negative thing, but going to someone like Clove Street and Cardamundi or USPCC, the deck would be $30 a deck for them to, break even. And it becomes difficult to really, and granted that $30 is also an exaggeration, but it becomes difficult to offer a product at a reasonable price so that people will be able to get it. So I think to that aspect as well, like that's why sometimes if I really like a deck, NPCC, that's fine. I know what I'm getting into with it. I know I'm not going to be able to handle the deck well. It's not going to, fan spectacularly, but I really like the art, and the price point was right because somewhere else probably would have cost more.
Exactly. I feel exactly the same. I know I'm not going to be able to use it very well. So if it looks great and the price is right, fantastic.
Yeah, looks like YouTube is back up with comments, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, they start coming up on mine as well.
Yeah. I think it was Lee Asher. We were talking about this last week. It was like he's really excited to see the things that these new printers are going to come out with, and because let's be honest, like just because you're a small printer doesn't mean you can't print like a Cardamundi or print like USPCC. It's basically the stock, it's the capability, So perfect example is Lautrec, right? Nobody knows where he prints the stuff.
Well,
but some of his decks handle amazing. Like the limited edition Les deck, the black one, is just phenomenal. It feels great. It's super soft. It fans beautifully. And nobody's talking about that because not many people have felt it. First of all, so I think these little spots are definitely going to be popping up more and more.
Let's hope. Dude, let's definitely hope. I think the more places you can go, the more accessible creating decks becomes. And I think that's one of the interesting aspects that you can probably speak to, especially Luke. I feel like everyone who gets into collecting at some point or another has the idea of creating a deck themselves. How often do you get people reaching out saying, hey, do you have any pointers? Is there anything that like you can recommend I do? Stuff like that.
So it's kind of like, and I'm sure
didn't you just comment about this the other day? Like,
yeah, it's something that happens all the time, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of creators out there. And I think it's great. I think it's fantastic that people reach out and want advice. And help. And I kind of like I touched on it the other day, it's just it would be in their benefit and the person you're reaching out to benefit if you go about doing it in a manner that's as most polite as you can, just from a manners point of view. Like if someone wants to take time out of their day to help you and give you advice, and that could be one sentence, that could be days worth of talking to you about things. I mean, there's people like I talk to all the time still now who for months I'll be talking to about maybe their designs or how they're going to do, and it's because the way they approached me, and I would like to think that I would do the same as approaching someone else I would like help from or advice from, is just to go to them with a kind of like a nice approach, a polite approach. If you're blunt with someone, you're probably going to get a blunt response back, and a lot of the time, and I'm sure you guys probably get it as well. A lot of the time, I do get blunt messages, and I still reply to it because I feel bad if I don't reply to someone. And it's kind of like, why am I like encouraging you to talk to me like a piece of crap? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all for people reaching out for advice, and if anyone that's watching this does want to ask me anything, the very little knowledge I have to talk to them.
Nice.
I mean, I think you've always offered great knowledge to me. Even when I brought my deck to you, you definitely were honest and upfront and offered whatever you had, and I think it's huge, and that's something that I think people can see that about you, and that's why they reach out to you so much. Just they need to learn how to navigate and ask, build a rapport first.
I really appreciate that, and obviously in regards to your deck, it was we've spoken about this before, and it
Of
was
course.
something I would love to have worked on. Just for anyone watching, it's something I would love to have helped with. There was a slight kind of.
We lost sound again.
What perfect timing!
Like there was a sort of dead.
There was a sort of. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
you.
we
We got you.
Dude, that was
Oh,
like
gosh.
literally perfect timing.
I literally just swore at you continuously for like 10 seconds. No. No, whether it was done, timing or conflict of interest or design routes or whatever it is,
Yeah.
It saddens me that I couldn't help on that deck, but I know full well that in future, either you or I are going to work on a deck, or you're going to have a deck, and you can come to me if you want to talk about stuff, even if you disregard any of my opinions.
Yeah, it's funny, obviously it's not about me and my deck, but like just the funny thing about it is I didn't even think about it until I showed you and brought you to it. And like, for those of you, I mean, obviously most people know. So there's the deck, this was my concept side of it. And I was like, now I need a designer to take it and run with it, and I didn't even like put 2 and 2 together. Whereas like the deck he just came out with was called Arrow, and here's my deck and it has 2 fucking arrows on it. So I'm just like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. And like, it just makes sense, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, duh.
I love the direction it's going in, though, dude. I think it's.
Oh, dude, my God,
everything about it. I think the way it's heading, the initial concept, the initial artwork, even, it's going to be a great deck.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm very lucky to find the help along the way that I found, between you, Nick, like everybody who's thrown their input in, and the designer that I found to actually do the deck. I'm so blessed, and obviously all that stuff will come out soon with who I'm working with and other stuff. But anyway, back to you. So yeah, I think it's been great, just your feedback always, no matter what it's about, whether it's about something that is going on in the community, what can we do to create positive stuff within the community. You always go that extra mile, and I think this community is lucky to have you for sure.
I appreciate it, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, let's should we give these things away or what?
Yeah, so we're going to be giving away. Well, Luke is generous enough to be giving away 2 Arrow decks. So we are going to switch it up from what we have done in the past. I don't think last time with ECAT, the Fox facts worked as great as we had hoped it would have. We didn't verify any Fox facts. There were some interesting ones there. So that being said, we're going to see who was paying attention earlier. If the first person who can drop into the chat the name of Luke's first deck will win. Yeah.
Here's the thing. He didn't name it. So I have a way that we can.
So no, he did name it. He just named it really quiet.
I didn't even. I was waiting. Anyway.
Oh, I heard it.
Okay.
Because I don't like it.
No. If he named it, cool. But we can give a hint. We could say it's an animal, right?
It's an animal.
Okay. So if y'all can, someone can name, whoever names first what the deck was called. You'll get 2 Arrow decks.
Yeah.
And go. Fox. No Fox.
There's
2
a second
people said
Fox. Damn.
It was not a nice. Like, I look at it now and I think, what were you doing? Like,
okay. Ninja Turtle.
Teddy says Ninja Turtle. We got Wolf. We got some good guesses here, but none of them are right yet. Tiger, turtle, shark. People are paying attention. They heard a shark thing.
I did hear shark. That was good.
You know what? We might have messed this one up a little by talking about a lot of animals for some reason.
Rabbit, shark, dragon, pig, cow.
Oh my God, rabbit,
I'm
froggy.
Just name off a bunch.
I mean, there is a way to obviously,
Yeah. Mind you guys. Here's a quick hint. It was
Okay, go ahead.
This was a canceled Kickstarter event, or campaign. So,
sea monkey.
If anyone, otter, mouse. I feel like first off, I feel like all of the Zodiac animals have been mentioned, so the Zodiac deck came into play again. Race cars.
It's an animal, Matt. It's an animal.
Oh my God. So Deadpool.
Hey, they were listening.
Yeah, no,
were
people,
nearly there.
listen, I am really impressed. People were listening. If you're scrolling, there we go. Deck Collector got it with Hawk. So,
Nice. He was the quicker looker up.
Kevin Spacey just came through. Oh my God. Congratulations, Deck Collector. Reach out.
I like how Fujiwara. That's 52 in talk, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's like race cars, Deadpool. That's awesome.
Listen, I'm really proud of everyone who obviously listened to us just ramble for an hour and 59 minutes and picked out so many things we actually talked about.
Good.
So I am so happy that all of you listened to us. So
Samurai said he was first.
Let me check here.
Nah. Deck Collector came through first on our side. Sorry.
Yeah, Deck Collector had you by like maybe a couple seconds there.
If that, yeah, his came through first. You might have saw yours first, but his came through first. So
I missed the last time. Dusty was all LC. Dusty was all in the first like 20 minutes. I think we dropped this little nugget there. So
I chip off my roof. Okay, so Deck Collector, reach out to Luke and he'll take care of that for you.
Yep, just put me a message on Instagram. We'll sort it out.
He'll answer you too.
He will answer you. Well, we need to get your address, so he will answer you. We appreciate you guys listening, though, so much. Like, honestly, obviously, we're trying to do these a little more often, especially with something related to the guests, just because it's a little fun. One of the things I do want to say, though, is, Luke, thank you so much for being on. We know it's mad late for you, so this is really, we're happy to have you on, man. We were glad to move this to a different time. I'm glad a lot of people saw that because last time we moved it, not everyone saw it. So, dude, thanks for so much. Thanks just for honestly being as active in the community as you are. Thanks for being you.
Cheers,
wait. So do we have a Diesel question?
Oh, shice. Yeah, we do.
I thought all the questions were
So we actually have two questions because this one kept coming up in the chat before and I kept forgetting to ask. Do you speak French?
Un peu de français, mais non.
All right. So there was someone who was in here earlier who's a big fan, who's from France, and he reached out to me because he was like, I might have to watch it after because I don't know if I'll be able to catch it all because my English isn't that good. I was like, stop it either way. We'll check it out. I don't know if he's still here, but he also wanted to see you speak French. So there we go. We got that. Let's see. Here's the Kyle question. And Kyle, I'm going to call you out on this right now. I feel like you're Googling for questions. So if that's the case, step up your game, bro. We have more we have more faith in you than this. This is a good one, but it's I don't know. It's not as cutting edge as some of the originals. I still think the best one was the combination of animals that James Kiernan came up with of a turtle giraffe. So here we go.
Spit out the question.
You're in a dark room with a candle, a wood stove, and a glass lamp. You only have one match. So what do you light first?
Say again?
You're in a dark room with a candle, a wood stove, and a gas lamp. You only have one match. So what do you light first?
The match.
Okay, shit, you got it. Kyle, you're fired. No.
That was right. Was it?
That was right. That was right. That was 100% right. So
that was right.
And also,
everybody's like the match.
Yeah, but it's like 1 a.m. here.
We'll let you go to bed. Everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we forget to, because it looks like Steve forgot this week and I did not.
I didn't. You have to still do your whole spiel, but I
have to do it. Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everybody because you usually do it your thing like boom,
boom,
boom.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you, Luke. You're the man. I look forward to that purple deck. And
thanks, guys.
Go ahead, Todd.
So again, yes, big thank you to everyone who came tonight. In spite of the YouTube issues, we are really excited for next week's guest. Obviously, he's no Luke Wadey, but it's still going to be a fun one. Different kind of twist here on it. So before we get to it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. But next week, we are going to be having Shauno on the show. So make sure to tune in. It'll be back at the normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on Deckin Around.
Shauno. Dang, we got two studs in a row.
Yeah. Dude, we're going to be killing it here. So it should be a fun one. So pop on next week, guys. We're looking forward to it. And make sure to keep an eye on the stories for some questions and some of the videos we're going to be popping. So have a nice one, guys.
Peace out.
Guys.